Hi, Calvin, Tallulah. I've got a book for you called Zen Shorts by John Muth. And this is a story about a giant panda named Stillwater who's really good at telling stories about the important things in life.
Michael, there's a bear outside, said Karl.
A what? Called Michael?
A bear. He's really big. And he's in the backyard.
What's he doing? Asked Michael.
He's sitting.
He has an umbrella, said Karl.
An umbrella?
By the time the boys got outside,
their sister Addy was already talking with him. I'm sorry for arriving unannounced, said the bear. The wind carried my umbrella all the way from my backyard to your backyard. I thought I would retrieve it before it became a nuisance.
He spoke with a slight panda accent.
Michael introduced himself.
Then Addy introduced Karl, because Karl was shy around bears he didn't know. And this is how Addy, Michael, and Karl met Stillwater.
The next day, Addy went to have tea with Stillwater.
"Hello," Addy said as she stepped inside. "Come in," a faraway voice called. Then she heard the voice say, oh yes, come out, come out." Stillwater was in the backyard. He was in a tent.
"This is a birthday present from my Uncle Ree," Stillwater said. "He always gives presents on his birthday to celebrate the day he was born. I liked it so much that's why I'm not staying in my house right now." Stillwater invited Addy to sit with him.
"You brought me some cake," said Stillwater. "That was very nice of you. Is it your birthday?" he asked.
"No," said Addy. "It's not mine either," said Stillwater, "but let me give you a gift for my uncle's birthday.
I will tell you a story." Uncle Ree and the Moon.
My Uncle Ree lived alone in a small house up in the hills. He didn't own many things. He lived a simple life. One evening he discovered he had a visitor. A robber had broken into the house and was rummaging through my uncle's few belongings. The robber didn't notice Uncle Ree, and when my uncle said hello, the robber was so startled he almost fell down. My uncle smiled at the robber and shook his hand. "Welcome, welcome, how nice of you to visit." The robber opened his mouth to speak, but he couldn't think of anything to say. Because Ree never lets anyone leave empty-handed, he looked around the tiny hut for a gift for the robber. But there was nothing to give. The robber began to back toward the door. He wanted to leave. At last Uncle Ree knew what to do. He took off his only robe, which was old and tattered. "Here," he said, "please take this." The robber thought my uncle was crazy. He took the robe, dashed out the door, and escaped into the night. My uncle sat and looked at the moon, its silvery light spilling over the mountains, making all things quietly beautiful. "Poor man," lamented my uncle. "All I had to give him was my tattered robe. If only I could have given him this wonderful moon." "Your uncle sounds nice," said Addy. "I don't think I could have given away my only robe." "I know how that is," said Stillwater, "but there's always the moon." "That was a good story," said Addy. "Thank you," said Stillwater, "and this is good cake." "Thanks," said Addy. "I made it myself."
That sounds like the two of you, Calvin and Tallulah. You guys are excellent bakers.
The next day, Michael went to see Stillwater. "Here I am," Stillwater called from the tree. "Can I come up?" asked Michael.
"If you're careful," said Stillwater.
"What if we could fly?" said Michael.
"We would cast shadows on clouds," said Stillwater.
"But what if we fell?" said Michael. "If we fell, we might break something," said Stillwater. "That would be bad," said Michael.
"Maybe," said Stillwater.
"Maybe?" asked Michael.
The farmer's luck.
There was once an old farmer who had worked his crops for many years. One day his horse ran away. Upon hearing the news, his neighbors came to visit. "Such bad luck," they said sympathetically. "Maybe," the farmer replied. The next morning the horse came back, bringing with it 2 other wild horses. "Such good luck!" the neighbors exclaimed.
"Maybe,"
replied the farmer. The following day his son tried to ride one of the untamed horses. He was thrown off and broke his leg. Again the neighbors came to offer their sympathy on his misfortune. "Such bad luck," they said.
"Maybe," the farmer answered.
The day after that, military officials came to the village to draft young men into the army, to fight in a war. Seeing that the son's leg was broken, they passed him by. "Such good luck!" cried the neighbors.
"Maybe," said the farmer.
"I get it," said Michael. "Maybe good luck and bad luck are all mixed up. You never know what will happen next." "Yes," Stillwater agreed.
"You never know."
The day after that, Karl went to visit Stillwater. "Michael said I couldn't bring over stuff to go swimming. I'm mad at Michael. He's always telling me what to do, so I brought everything." Said Stillwater. "It's a little pool. I don't know if all those things will fit." "Let's see," Karl said. "Well, let's see," said Stillwater. Stillwater looked at the pool. "The things can go swimming, but we can't," he said. "I brought too much stuff," said Karl. "That's okay," said Stillwater. "I'll help you carry it home later." "Why does Michael always have to tell me what to do?" Karl said. "If he were here, I would climb up really high, and I would jump on him like this, and I'd do a big smash like this." Later, Karl and Stillwater had tea. "Karl," said Stillwater, "you spent the whole day being angry with Michael. Did you notice how much fun we had?" Karl watched the steam rise from his cup. "I'm sorry I brought all this stuff," Karl said. "You don't need to be sorry," said Stillwater. "Right now, you need to carry. Hold on tight, and I'll tell you a story." A heavy load. Two traveling monks reached a town where there was a young woman waiting to step out of her sedan chair. The rains had made deep puddles, and she couldn't step across without spoiling her silken robes. She stood there, looking very cross and impatient. She was scolding her attendants. They had nowhere to place the packages they held for her, so they couldn't help her across the puddle. The younger monk noticed the woman, said nothing, and walked by. The older monk quickly picked her up and put her on his back, transported her across the water, and put her down on the other side. She didn't thank the older monk. She just shoved him out of the way and departed. As they continued on their way, the young monk was brooding and preoccupied. After several hours, unable to hold his silence, he spoke out. "That woman back there was very selfish and rude, but you picked her up on your back and carried her. Then she didn't even thank you." "I set the woman down hours ago," the older monk replied. "Why are you still carrying her?" "Do you think you've carried it long enough?" asked Stillwater. "Yes," said Karl. "Good," said Stillwater. And this is how Addy, Michael, Karl, and Stillwater became friends. I like Stillwater. You know, Stillwater got his name because he is kind of like the mind. When a pond is really still and there's no ripples in it, you can see the entire sky in it. And similarly, when your mind is really still, you can see all kinds of things in it. But when the pond's all ripply, you can't see any reflection in it. And when your mind is all ripply, you can't see things clearly either. So that's why Papa tries to keep his mind really still, like a pond, so I can see the whole sky, like still water.